Hello everyone, it's Tom the taxi driver, and in this video I want to talk about the Worshipful Company of Hackney Carriage drivers. The Worshipful Company of Hackney Carriage drivers. Now, for some of those that are quite active on this YouTube and seen some of my other videos, you'll know that I got a guiding badge. It's that badge up there as well, from the Worshipful Company of Hackney Carriage drivers. It's a really popular course, and it's how I found out about the Worshipful Company. When you get your badge on badge day, they give you a goodie bag full of lots of things, you know, about joining a union, maybe joining some of the apps, and one of them is the Worshipful Company of Hackney Carriage drivers. But the trouble is that it's hard to know, you know, what is this, why should I join it, what's it all about. It was only once I'd done the course that I learned much more about livery companies as a whole. Livery companies in the City of London, so obviously the square mile, the City of London. If you're doing the knowledge, you'll have to learn all these livery companies. You know, Pewterers Hall, Tallow Chandlers Hall, the Threadneedles Hall, all these things. They're all of 110 different livery companies that make up the City of London, and this dates back to the 13th century, whereby the City of London was largely a huge trading ground, much like it is today. You know, people come, commute into the City of London, and they go home back to their homes at the end of the day. Well, that was much like the City of London all throughout the medieval ages, even to some extent right through into the Victorian ages and as we see today. People would come and trade in the City of London. So you have the Worshipful Company of ironmongers, goldsmiths, pewterers. These would all come trade and sell their wares within the City of London. And the idea of a livery company was that it was kind of like an exclusive club, a guild, a way of controlling trade for those that were trading within the City of London. Much of the early livery companies could set up apprenticeships for the people coming into these guilds, into these professions, if you like. The Worshipful Company of Hackney Carriage drivers is a relatively new livery company. While some date back to the 13th century, some have premises in the City of London. There's about, I think it's 39 livery companies actually have halls and actual places specifically for their company in the City of London. The Worshipful Company of Hackney Carriage drivers is relatively new, despite the fact we've been around since the 17th century. Let's not forget that it was Oliver Cromwell who gave licensing to the first, Hackney carriages were around then, but it was Oliver Cromwell who said, look, let's license these people, let's make these drivers, these coachmen accountable. You know, there's a certain number of them, we can license them in terms of how they practice. So we are the oldest form of land transport that is licensed in the world. But in terms of the Hackney carriage drivers, it was only because of one driver that had a passenger on board, and the passenger said, why don't Hackney carriage drivers have their own livery company? You know, you effectively are a trade. You have to go through a formal learning and education. Why don't you have your own guild, your own worshipful company? And that then started up this tradition of these cab drivers coming together and making our livery company. And the most important and probably the biggest milestone for the company was in 2013. We received the Royal Charter from Prince Charles. This is at St Bartholomew's Church in the City of London, just by Smithfield, and that is then obviously what gives you worshipful status. So we're in the list of 110 worshipful companies. Now, what does it mean to actually join that company? What does it mean today? Well, largely it's ceremonial. Going back in medieval times, it would have controlled the trade. It would have controlled how people operated in the marketplaces, such as Cheapside and various other marketplaces, East Cheap, West Cheap, in the City of London. But today it's largely ceremonial, and I love it. It's continuing tradition, it's keeping it going. So within the Worshipful Company of Hackney Carriage drivers, we have it's around about, I think it's about 3 or so a year, dinners, luncheons, where you have to turn up. A lunch is a formal lounge suit, whereas a dinner is like a tuxedo. And this is something that happens across all livery companies, not just the Worshipful Company of Hackney Carriage drivers. And you sit down with people from the trade. There's no doom and gloom there. You can really relish the fact that you are a London cab driver and you're a huge ambassador to the city. But knowing that you're one of the select few that keeps this ancient tradition alive that's lasted for centuries upon centuries. If you can imagine, like, you know, these big banquets that you see in, like, you know, I don't know, like say Downton Abbey or like the Great Hall in Harry Potter. It's like that. It's so formal. There's just absolutely nothing like it, and it's really when I done my tour guiding badge, they invite all the people that have done that to go collect their badge, and I'd highly recommend that you do that if you do the badge. And it's almost like the sort of celebration you need once you finish the knowledge. You know, you've done all this hard work, and it just feels so great to be in that scenario. You feel like a true champion, that you deserve this. And every cab driver does. It's not an easy feat. It's the hardest examination system in the world. So it's always good to remind ourselves of that. So you develop connections within the company, other drivers that you see out and about. There's lots of drivers I see on different ranks now, and it's so nice to be able to, you know, have conversations, talk with these different drivers, and then know they're not a stranger. Also to know that these drivers are in the same situation as you. It can be really solitary doing the job day in, day out. So if you have one of these lunches or a dinner to look forward to, it just makes you realise that there's a lot of drivers out there, and all good drivers. It's really easy to focus on the doom and gloom. So by going to these dinners and lunches, you have something really to look forward to. It really breaks up your working schedule, and it reinforces the freedom that you have as a driver. You know, you might have a busy week in the cab. Sometimes it's all go, go, go. You want to go out and earn as much money as you can in the cab. But midweek, the lunch comes up. You park your cab. You get the train into central London because there's drinking involved. You go to a real nice livery hall, an establishment with so much silverware, history, all this great stuff on the walls that you can really soak up. You're wearing your best suit, and you just get to have a real nice afternoon or evening with some great people. And largely as well, what every livery company is really forefrontal with is charitable, is charity to donations. So within the Worshipful Company of Hackney Carriage Drivers, every year they hold an annual Disneyland trip. I believe it's been going for about 25 years now, and if you've not heard of it, it's called the Children's Magical Taxi Tour, whereby lots of cab drivers, I think it's about up to 200 cab drivers, give up their time to take terminally ill children and their families to Disneyland in Paris basically for that young child. So it really is a trip of a lifetime, and every year cab drivers do give that up. And unfortunately, because of the current situation of what's going on, it's not going on this year. Would have been my first year doing it. I was really excited. But there's other charitable ways that the company does as well. So that's a little bit of insight to the Worshipful Company of Hackney Carriage Drivers, and hopefully gives you a bit more information that I didn't know once I finished the knowledge. I hope many people do become members in the future. And if you have any more questions, I'll put some links in the description down below. Please do like, comment and subscribe to these videos. I really do enjoy making them, and I enjoy that you watch them as well. Thanks a lot. Take care. I'll see you all soon.